Okay, welcome to Chapter 6. Forgot to put that at the top. This is about the French and Indian War. First question is explain why France and Great Britain engaged in their great contest for North America and why Britain won. First of all, let me make it clear this was a war between France and Great Britain, which occurred in the American colonies, and they each had Indians on their side. It was not between France and the Indians. Great Britain eventually won, and oftentimes the winner gets to name the war. So that's why it's called the French and Indian War. Okay, so just a little bit of background. In the early 1700s, there were small colonial skirmishes among British and French trappers and their Native American allies. So French settlers, let's see, what are they? They're blue. Yep, French settlers and British settlers, and they each were allied with different Indians. Eventually, British colonial settlers moved farther into French territory, into this Ohio River Valley, or Ohio country. Wait, where is it? Down here. Where is it? There we go. Into this area right here. Okay, and that was the main bone of contention and what they fought over. And there are good maps, really good maps for this chapter, so look on 110 and 111. So France needed to keep this territory connected to connect their Canadian holdings. They had a good hold up here. Or, sorry, okay, they're blue. France they claimed this area right here, but if you look at that map in your book, you see that really their only claim was with a bunch of dotted fur trapping guys, and not towns and cities and roads and like the colonists had over here. So it's going to be pretty hard to claim. But regardless, they still claimed it. So they had to hold on to this area where the British were settling, the colonists were settling. And so that's what is going to cause the war. Okay, so they needed to connect their Canada holdings with those of the lower Mississippi Valley, Louisiana, named after the French King Louis XIV. FYI. Ultimately, the British won due to economic superiority over France, plus they just didn't have the claim and the colonial support that the British did, even though the two didn't really like each other, the British and the colonists. Since they were also fighting each other in Europe and America, that's some European history, Great Britain was able to more easily fund their war than was France. Also, since it was a naval war, Great Britain had the advantage over the French. Now, like I said, battles don't matter, but what does matter? Explain how the series of wars with France affected Britain's American subjects and helped pave the way for their later rebellion against their mother country, who won this war basically for them, as they put it. Okay, before this war and during it, colonists were unable to unite. They were really like 13 separate little countries. But however, they did more so in this war than they had before. This war helped break down some differences between colonists, which would be very useful in the American Revolution. Look on page, there's a cartoon on 117. This is kind of the first attempt at unity in the French and Indian War, and that cartoon shows the broken up snake, and everybody thinks that it is a cartoon for the Revolution, and it's not. This was Ben Franklin's plan. It was not agreed upon. It was one designed to create more unity among the colonists, and neither the colonists wanted it or Great Britain. Ultimately, the French and Indian War dismayed both the British and colonists regarding their opinions of each other. The British thought the colonists were rude and boorish, kind of like, trash. The British were dismayed by colonial reluctance to support the common cause. The colonists were expert smugglers. They traded with the French. Why would they destroy their trading partners? This was not their war in their minds. The British were disgusted by the colonial unwillingness to fight for their own country or place they were living. England was their country. Colonists wanted basically the rights and protection without the responsibility for fighting for it, so to speak. The removal of the French from America and the frontier after the French and Indian War, so look at the map in your book, was bad for Native Americans. Now the colonists' desire to move westward is really fired up. A very fateful event for one of the groups was Pontiac's Uprising. You can read about it, page 122. They had a desperate attempt to reclaim what was theirs after they realized the colonial shift in power, and they lost the French to protect them. Great Britain, having just fought really 9 years of war in Europe and in the Americas, did not want to deal with any more colonial issues. So they passed what they thought was a simple solution to a problem here, the Proclamation of 1763. And it just made basically this line. I found this on the internet. It looks like a fifth grader did it. And it said the colonists can't go past basically the Appalachian Mountains. And they're like, good deal, we're done, no messing with the Indians, and everybody's happy. Well, this is going to infuriate the colonists because they just were a group of people who, we're talking 1763. The first ones who came over were 1607. Okay, we're generations away from being born in England. So these are people who did what they wanted. So this is going to make them mad that they can't go across. So that's a first sign of what I like to refer to as the rebellious teenagehood of the colonists. Read in green. So the French and Indian War paved the way for rebellion because the British were cracking down on the colonists after the war regarding westward settlement, and the British needed money. So in Chapter 7, they're going to pass laws, all these the Stamp Act and the Sugar Act, because they simply needed money to help pay for these wars that they fought. 9 years in the French and Indian War here in the colonies. Okay, so that's the key and the most important thing. You can read through this. Why to describe France's North American Empire, compare it with Britain's colonies. Bottom line was they just didn't have the reason to leave. The Huguenots, French Protestants, weren't allowed to leave like the English Puritans and set up great big settlements. They favored the Sugar Islands. New France, which is the blue part on the map up there, that's what that was called in America, it was completely controlled by France, little self-government, and they just didn't grow. So if you changed any of this above, the war outcome might have been different. The French people who did come to America were scattered fur trappers and Jesuit priests, not entire towns like New England. No plantation farming to establish settled areas, and so therefore they were bound to lose this war. Let's see. Explain how North American political and military events were affected by developments on the larger European stage. Okay, that's it. The French and Indian War was the fourth of the Anglo-French wars, all of which had begun in Europe. This one began in America and spread to Europe and other parts of the world. France and Great Britain will fight each other throughout the next several chapters. I mean, this is world history, but it affected them as colonists, it affects them during the American Revolution, and it affects America as a new nation. France needed to concentrate on the European wars, therefore it was unable to concentrate on America, whereas Great Britain could send more men and supplies to America. So anyway, so England is going to take the lead at this point. And now we're going to move on to Chapter 7.